Hi, I'm Ansel Cook,
I'm Nick Steiert.
and this is our analysis of the Great Oxidation event.
Our atmosphere has not always been oxygen-rich. The first species to ever occupy the Earth did not rely on oxygen the way modern-day species do. The oxygenated world we know today can be attributed to the Great Oxidation event. The Great Oxidation event can be attributed to the movement of the Earth's surfaces. Prior to the Great Oxidation event, plate tectonics shifted and new volcanoes emerged. These new volcanoes produced carbon dioxide, which in turn produced a warm Earth climate and more minerals pushed into the oceans. These events led to the increase in population of carbonates and cyanobacteria. This is where the oxygen came from. The rise in the population of these species increased the photosynthesis production, leading to a boost in oxygen abundance. It is a long domino effect that produced oxygen, but the many working parts help produce an oxygen-rich environment until the Lamagundi event, which is the most prominent carbon isotope event in the planet's atmospheric history, which decreased the oxygen levels. 2.3 billion years ago, the Great Oxidation event occurred, and modern geologists were able to examine these effects in the rock layers. However, the oxidation had a large impact on the nitrogen cycle. These detailed records document the immediate onset of a modern-style nitrate-driven ecosystem, appearing simultaneously with the first evidence of oxygen in the atmosphere.
The first organisms that were able to perform oxygenic photosynthesis, such as cyanobacteria, began to produce molecular oxygen in large quantities 2.8 billion years before the Great Oxidation event. This oxygen slowly emerged in the atmosphere and ocean. Since there became so much oxygen, it became lethal towards the dominant anaerobic microorganisms at the time. The 2.4 billion-year-old ancestor of this blue-green algae was the first photosynthetic species. In other words, it was the first species to produce sugar through sunlight, CO2, and water. Here, we have an example of rocks that were proof of change in oxygen and water levels. While the first organisms capable of performing oxygenetic photosynthesis became to produce oxygen in large quantities, the oxygen had chemical reactions in the oceans. It reacted mainly with iron and minerals such as magnetite and hematite and caused water, which until then had been green, to lose its Fe and green color. Proof of this is shown in ancient rocks that contain huge banded iron formations from oxidation of iron in the ocean.
Currently, oxygen makes up around 21% of Earth's atmosphere. Prior to the Great Oxidation event, Earth's atmosphere was maybe 1/100% of the atmosphere. The change in oxygen was a drastic one, and it is evident in the evolution of oxygen with breathing life forms today.